plea.
Just two more documents before we take our mid-morning break. Can we look at poll 000999689, please? We're sticking with the case of MacDonald. This is a statement that Miss MacDonald made to Second Sight in 2013, so after her case. Could we please look at page 4? She says as follows. She says, "Shortly after I had been audited and my post office was taken away from me, I read an article in a magazine which highlighted other people who had suffered or were about to suffer the same hell I was going through."
Presumably that would have been the Computer Weekly article. I think that was published in around 2009, so not long after the case, potentially.
I then got in touch with the writer of the article, who then put me in touch with the Justice for Subpostmasters Alliance. This was a very big surprise to me, as I was led to believe by the investigator for the Post Office, Steve Bradshaw, that I was the only one in this position.
And we hear that phrase again, much publicised in the ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. You are the only one.
And this has never happened before. Steve Bradshaw is a liar, and he knew the whole time, as I'm friends with another person he had prosecuted that was a member of the Justice for Subpostmasters Alliance. It is just unbelievable how I was going to feel like I was the only one, and it made me isolated and paranoid about what was going on with the whole situation.
She's pulling absolutely no punches there in her view of Stephen Bradshaw and his investigation there, clearly.
Had you mentioned the Seema Misra case, Miss MacDonald might have realised that she wasn't the only one.
I've never said that to her. That's incorrect, that statement.
Well, we'll look at that, because we've seen, that can come down, thank you. We've seen Lisa Brennan this morning being told in her interview that nobody else is making mistakes, haven't we?
I've explained that in that particular branch, she was the only person in that branch that was having that particular issue.
We've seen the letter from the lawyer at the post office taking a conscious decision not to tell Miss MacDonald about Seema Misra's case. You remember that document, don't you?
That's right, and that's after the interview.
So Miss MacDonald's complaint there that she was told that she was the only one, that rings true, doesn't it?
It doesn't. I have never said that to her, that she is the only one.
Wouldn't that be consistent, though, with not raising Seema Misra's case?
No, on the context of the interview on the time, I have not said to Miss MacDonald that she was the only one. And also with that, I don't know who she's friends with, and I did not know whether she was a member of the JFSA.
The point being that had the other case, or the defence report from Seema Misra's case, been disclosed, it would have been beyond doubt that she would have known, and the defence team would have known that she wasn't the only one.
Did you think that Miss MacDonald's case was an important case to win?
No, it's a case. It's a case that has to put whether it's, each case is treated on its own merit.
So this one is just like any other case?
All I do is interview, gather the information, send the file off. And
treat everybody fairly and equally?
As far as I'm concerned, I do, yes.
Can we please look at poll 0016596, please? This is, I think, a self-appraisal form for 2010-2011. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yes.
So essentially this is Stephen Bradshaw in his own words from the time.
If we scroll over to the next page, we have at the bottom of that page, your position, I own performance. And it says as follows: I take ownership of the objectives. I agree for myself and my team that will help to deliver the business goals. I regularly discuss my team's progress against their objectives. I ensure that business goals and current team performance are highly visible to my whole team. I address poor performance and recognise achievement. Could we scroll down to the bottom of that page, please? It's number 5. On the 5th of July 2010 at Preston Crown Court, the offender pleaded guilty to false accounting but would not accept theft. I challenged the recommendations of the barrister and persuaded him that a trial would be necessary, as the reason given by the defendant, Horizon Integrity, would have a wider impact on the business if a trial did not go ahead.
So if we think back to the disclosure and the failure to disclose Seema Misra's defence expert's report, which would have potentially meant a different outcome for this case. It's clear to us, Stephen Bradshaw is not a wallflower. He strikes us as somebody who is willing to speak up about things. And indeed, in his own words there, he is saying actually the disclosure duties were something that were his responsibility. The recommendations for whether to pursue a case were not his responsibility, yet he was more than willing to speak up about that, challenge the barrister and make it proceed to trial. So one would think then that he was eminently comfortable with actually challenging a disclosure decision for which he is ultimately responsible if he's willing to challenge a barrister from the criminal law team or who's working with the criminal law team. It would strike as something that he would be willing to challenge a legal executive or a paralegal on disclosure issues if there is literally no ulterior motive in bringing a case.
I also advise that a new trial date should be fixed, as there are current issues ongoing regarding the Horizon system. He agreed with me, and consequently the judge accepted these points and fixed a new trial date. I mean, it seems, certainly from your own feedback, from your own appraisal, that you saw it as in some way career boosting to press on with that Miss MacDonald's case because of problems with the Horizon system having a wider impact on the business. Do you not accept that?
The issue would have been discussed with the prosecution barrister, and as you're probably well aware, when you're filling in one-to-ones sort of thing, there's always a flamboyant way of putting the words across.
I challenge.
Is that his way of saying bigging up your role? I don't know. I mean, but flamboyancy when you're filling in your one-to-one. I mean, of course you want to put yourself in a positive light. Of course you do.
The recommendations of the barrister and persuaded him that a trial would be necessary, as the reasons given by the defendant, Horizon Integrity, would have a wider impact on the business if a trial did not go ahead. Are you saying that you're saying you had more of a role in things than you actually did?
No, not at all. As I said, that's a flamboyant way of explaining what had gone on the day.
But why would the barrister be concerned about the wider impact on the business, though?
I don't know. It will have been discussed with the prosecution barrister. And again, everything of that inquiry has to be taken into context.
I mean, this is written for a certain audience, isn't it? It's written for, presumably a line manager in the post office. But if you're writing it in such a way, clearly you will write it in a way that you think will impress them, which might give an insight into the culture at the post office at the time.
And it's not just one little piece of it, it's a full inquiry of how the money possibly went missing, etc. And they had their defence expert, it was sort of put in, prosecution spoke to defence barrister at the second time.
Is it right or wrong to say that you were concerned that that case would have a wider impact on the business of the post office?
It's wrong, but as I say, it's a flamboyant way of explaining what had gone on the day in the court.
So when you say it's wrong, what do you mean? Was that a thought that was in your mind during this case?
The wider impact is sort of, it was, at the time, it wasn't proven, as far as I recall, 100% that Horizon was so faulty.
And your concern in this particular case was that if you lost the case, that would damage the reputation of Horizon.
The damage would always come because once one part is gone, and as I say, you look at the shortfall was found by a business development manager. The audit was done following. They declared the amount of cash that had done the night before. When the business development manager went, there was only 17,000 in there. So it's you need the full case to be able to judge it properly.
Once one domino falls, they may all start falling, and we can't have that in 2010, can we?
And you, playing the role that you did, managed to persuade a barrister that a trial would be necessary because of the impact on the business.
As I said, the way it's written is completely wrong. I wouldn't write it like that now, but it's a self-appraisal for the way the business wanted things doing.
Well, there we go. There's the admission. We said that he would have written this for a specific audience in mind, and clearly he's kind of saying there, this is what I thought would impress them. Would be interesting to see a recent self-appraisal, as he still works at the post office, to see, because he says he wouldn't write it in such a way now. That would be interesting to see how the language has maybe evolved and developed over the years, maybe presumably since prosecutions were halted in 2019, it's now clearer that that's not potentially what the post office want. It's hard to say at the moment.
So was it
It's
true or
almost
was it not true?
There's probably truth in it, but not to maybe to the extent of what it is.
Not the whole truth. I mean, in a self-appraisal, surely that would raise concerns with the people conducting appraisals at the post office, particularly for current employees.
We've heard from some evidence about bonuses being paid in relation to successful prosecutions. Are you aware of anything along those lines?
Bonuses have always been paid along Royal Mail Group, Post Office, Royal Mail. Bonuses have always been there.
And would positive feedback relating to something like this, might that impact on bonuses?
Well, it impact depending on what score they want to give you, whether you're a 1, 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever numbers they go to.
And does your success in a criminal case impact on the amount that you're paid?
No, not at all.
Does the number of cases that you successfully...
Not at all. I'm paid whether 1 case is done, 1,000 cases or no cases.
Your standard pay, yes, but in terms of a bonus, you are, I think you've accepted, paid a bonus depending on how well you do.
A bonus becomes part of your pay, what's agreed by the business.
Yes.
And you don't get any extra bonus because of this. It's all how well or not well you do your job is how your bonus is given.
I think the implication is that evidence in the self-appraisal is being offered to say, well, look at all these things I've done, and that presumably a positive appraisal can result in an increased bonus. So whilst there might not be a direct line, there seems to only be, a couple of degrees of separation between that and any potential bonus that's paid.
If you're considered to have, for example, protected the business, prevented the wider impact on the business, do you think that might lead to a bonus?
It may do and it may not do, depending on who looks at the forms and the put in.
Thank you. So that might be an appropriate moment to take our mid-morning break.
We restart.
If we restart at 5 to 10, let's say 10 to 12.
10 to 12.
We have quite a lot to get through.
Let's have a break.
Thank you.